Herbert Hoover nearly died young. At 2, he became infected with croup and lay on his tiny bed, coughing himself to exhaustion, unable to breathe, while his parents and relatives struggled to revive him. His father, Jesse, in futility, finally pronounced the stony, cold, purple little body dead. At that moment, the boy's uncle, Henry John Minthorne, a physician, arrived and began to work desperately on the still child. Nothing worked. At last, he applied his mouth to the child's and breathed air into his lungs. The infant choked, heaved, and slowly began to revive. It was the first, but not the last, close brush with death for Herbert Hoover. He had been born about midnight on August 10th to 11th, 1874, in West Branch, Iowa. A midnight birth meant he could have selected either August 10th or 11th as his birthday. He chose the 11th, yet his biographers selected the 10th. Nicknamed Bertie, he had an older brother, Tad, about 4 years his senior, and a sister, May, approximately 2 years younger. By the time he turned 3, he and Tad were inseparable, a bond severed only by death, though he and May never became close. The Hoover children were descended from 6 generations of Quakers, about 1/3 Swiss and 3/4 British. Their ancestors had migrated in the mid-1700s for a variety of religious and political motives, but chiefly seeking free or cheap land. Bertie's paternal ancestors had lived initially in Pennsylvania, then moved south to Maryland and North Carolina, thence to Ohio, and finally to the village of West Branch in 1854. Always relocating in groups connected by kinship and religion. His maternal heritage also originated in Pennsylvania. From there, his mother's family migrated to Canada, lived briefly in Ohio, and finally landed near West Branch in 1859. 2 paternal ancestors were colonial governors. None on either side fought in the American Revolution. Both sides of the family converted to Quakerism, the paternal from Lutheranism, the maternal from Congregationalism. The Quaker lineage was intense as well as lengthy. It included evangelists, physicians, missionaries, and agents who ministered to the needs of Native Americans. The early generations were predominantly farmers. Hoover's father, Jesse, was gaunt and muscular, with brown hair and eyes and a Quaker beard, and was infused with kinetic energy, a trait Bertie also inherited from his mother, Huldah. As the village blacksmith, Jesse was mechanically gifted, like both his sons, and his quick wit and storehouse of tall, spellbinding tales made him popular in the community. He won election to the town council and became village assessor. Jesse's devout Quaker wife likely did not appreciate his humor. The two were such opposites in personality that some initially considered their marriage a mismatch. At 12, the serious, slender, green-eyed, brown-haired girl stopped fights among boys on the playground. At her father's funeral the following year, she consecrated her life to God. Huldah Minthorne was well educated for a woman of her time, graduating from a Quaker academy and attending 2 semesters at the embryonic State University at Iowa City. Then she taught at nearby Muscatine, where she was known as a biblical scholar and hard-nosed disciplinarian who converted all 18 of her students to the Quaker creed during a single year. Intense and solemn, Huldah taught her children to be direct, to set priorities, to avoid gossip, to live in peace and to work for the common good among all men of all races. Though firm, she was tolerant and embraced the couple when one of her relatives married outside the faith. When Tad asked his mother if her doctrines represented the only way, she invariably answered yes. Yet she explained that her version of heaven included multitudes who had entered in some other way. Once a stop on the Underground Railroad, the secret network that smuggled fugitive slaves to freedom in Canada, West Branch was a bustling farm village of about 400, located at a crossroads on the Iowa prairie. Notably lacking a tavern, West Branch had 12 stores and a few paved sidewalks, but no paved streets, public lighting or municipal water except for a town pump. Frugality and thrift were ingrained by religion and necessity. Farmers raised corn, wheat, hogs, dairy cows, and chickens, mostly for domestic consumption. Winters were frigid, with winds that whipped across the virtually treeless prairie. Summers were torrid, offering little shade, punctuated by thunderstorms and occasional tornadoes. Typhoid, malaria, diphtheria, tonsillitis, and tooth loss were endemic. Malnutrition resulted from an abundant but unbalanced diet. In a setting where only the hardy survived, Bertie overcame mumps, measles, diphtheria, and chickenpox. It was a Montessori school in stark reality, he later wrote.